Welcome to the program. This is, of course, the sheet for Monday, November the 10th, Hall of Fame Monday. By the way, we're going to get to that in a couple of seconds. Glad to be back off Friday for kids hockey in Kitchener. Got to go to the Kitchener Rangers Saginaw Spirit game where Peter DeBoer was the first to have his banner raised in the new Kitchener Rangers Level of Legacy. And even though I don't think anything is imminent around the NHL, I always wonder what Peter DeBoer's next move is. If you have a underperforming team, let's just say, and looking for someone who has a track record of getting teams into at least the Stanley Cup final, if not the conference final, Pete DeBoer is still out there. He's got this year remaining on his contract still with the Dallas Stars, and then a free agent. But nonetheless, I always keep Peter DeBoer's name in mind. In the meantime, as I mentioned, it is after all Hall of Fame Monday, and it is a pretty rich and deep class that goes in. We talked about it a little bit last week. We'll spend more time talking about it today. Everyone's got their favorites that are going in. I know a lot of college people are certainly excited, and rightfully so, that Jack Parker finds his spot at Yonge and Front Street in downtown Toronto. Well earned, probably long overdue. I can say long overdue for Jennifer Botterill, Brianna Decker as well, the star at Wisco. And with the NHL players, whether it's Duncan Keith or Zdeno Chara or Joe Thornton or Alexander McGillney, this is a rich and deep class. And we'll get into this with John Shannon in a couple of moments. Before we go any further, I want to get your thoughts on something, Zack. And maybe people in the chat can weigh in on this one too. I've mentioned it before on the program. Should our Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, look at, much like the Basketball Hall of Fame does, put teams in? Not just players. Hockey's been described, and rightfully so, as the ultimate team sport. Is it time then that the Hall of Fame recognizes, teams? Or as I've mentioned a few times, some people like it, some don't. Put in individual games.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was going to say. Much more on board with the teams than the games. The games, interesting idea. Yeah. I think they have in the Hockey Hall of Fame, it's been a little while since I've last been, but they have the video room that they used to play some stuff in there, and they would have feature films going on in there for hockey history stuff. And I say that generically, like there would be numerous different types of videos that they would play. But the teams I actually like, teams that set records, teams that are
part of dynasties.
Right, those kinds of things. I actually like that idea.
Teams that lurch the game forward, like the Miracle on Ice team, which, it wasn't like that many players that went on to have storied NHL careers. We think of Ken Morrow specifically with the Islanders, who goes from a gold medal to the Stanley Cup all in the same season, is probably saying to himself, this hockey stuff is easy. But that's what I'm talking about. Teams that have that kind of heft. And it doesn't even have to be a collection of individual players that move the needle in hockey, whether it's NHL, Europe, or elsewhere. But just as a team, achieve something great. And that 1980s team, that 80s squad led to the generation that, kids watched it and turned into Jeremy Roenick and turned into Chris Chelios and turned into, Mike Modano, that kind of influential team. That's what I'm looking at here. That's what I'm getting.
Is there any sense of this right now? Is there any sort of recognition for the teams right now?
No.
Not even and I'm not saying inducting teams, right? You know what I mean?
Oh no, but
there's no recognition.
No. That's not. There are record-breaking teams that will have displays. Oh yeah, okay, there'll be something on Team Canada and the Soviet Union 72 Summit Series. Oh yeah, but I'm talking about officially recognizing. Yeah, if this is supposed to be the ultimate team sport, where are the teams recognized in the Hall of Fame other than a display every now and then?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a way to spice up the Hall. And it's a way, it's a way to spice up the Hall. It's a way to get more conversation in and around the game. It's another way to teach people about hockey history if they're interested. And it's, Lord, how dare we say this? Something different. I was making this point with Gregor on Rundown last night. I always like it when hockey leads. Hockey seldom leads in sports. It follows. There are a few things where and listen, this is why I like the Winter Classic so much, right? Like that is like a tape measure home run. There were, generations before where none of that was going to seem possible because no one had the brain capacity to think about it that way or think about what you could do with hockey and where you could put it. And that's why I like it when hockey leads. Like hockey leads when it comes to jerseys. Nobody does it better in all of sports, but you can't say that hockey does everything better than every other sport. And that's why I like the idea of like trying to do something different. I know basketball does teams. Why can't hockey do teams? And why can't hockey do individual games? And it doesn't have to be every year either. Anyway, who has conversations like this? Me and John Shannon. And I miss it. Finally, I've got John back here on the program. This is what's coming up on the show today. Glad to have you aboard. The Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Download the app today and play your game with FanDuel. Here's what's coming up on the show. I just mentioned John Shannon from the excellent podcast 100% Hockey. John will stop by here in a couple of moments. We'll talk plenty about the Hockey Hall of Fame. We'll talk about maybe a changing of the guard. I was saying recently and wondering, is Vancouver the new Cole Harbour? We'll get into that coming up in a couple of seconds. Oilers woes. Man, I thought that game Saturday was going to be an absolute banger. Boy, was I ever wrong. We'll talk about the Vancouver Canucks as well. Specifically in net for the Vancouver Canucks. Kevin Kurz joins us from The Athletic as well, and we'll talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. And when I say Philadelphia Flyers, I'm talking about the drama with Matvei Michkov and the comments from Sean Couturier. So that's all to come here on the program today. Other things we should note, I want to park a little bit of time today and talk about the passing of two people in the game. One, Mel Bridgman, who's a former first overall draft pick in 1975 with the Philadelphia Flyers. Maybe we should probably mention that with Kevin when he stops by towards the bottom of the hour. We'll talk to Kevin about the passing of Mel Bridgman, who was also the first general manager in the history of the Ottawa Senators. And if you believe in fate or whatever, I don't even know how to describe this event, in and around Mel Bridgman, he was the Flyers' first overall draft pick in 75. He was the Ottawa Senators' first ever general manager. And on Saturday when he passed, the Philadelphia Flyers played the Ottawa Senators. And somewhere Mel Bridgman smiled. Also, we should note the passing of former NHL linesman Leon Stickle, who unfortunately is remembered best by some for botching a call in the Stanley Cup final on the Dwayne Sutter goal. And by his own admission, and he admitted it right away, bad call, mistake by me. I took my eyes off the puck. I was watching, he was watching Mel Bridgman and Clark Gillies, who almost came to blows, and took his eyes off the zone entry for 1 second and ended up botching the call. In a funny sort of twist of fate, that summer when he was persona non grata and public enemy number one in Philadelphia, Leon Stickle decided to grow a mustache. And the first game he officiated, worked the lines back at the Spectrum. It's a great story. The first game he worked back at the Spectrum, a fan had a sign with a picture of Leon Stickle with a mustache. Underneath was the caption, "We still know who you are." He had a picture of him with the mustache, which Leon Stickle, as I understand it, later got the sign and always kept it. So two passings to note, Mel Bridgman and Leon Stickle. Kevin Kurz coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. In the meantime, here to talk about a full sort of buffet of hockey topics is John Shannon. And I do want to remind you that before we get to John Shannon here, who is standing by, this segment is a presentation of Prime Monday Night Hockey. Prime Monday Night Hockey streams all national regular season Monday night NHL games on Prime Video in Canada and is available for free to Prime members in Canada. Stream Monday Night Hockey exclusively on Prime Video and experience thrilling goals and dramatic plays from the NHL. Monday nights are hockey nights. Don't miss a moment of the action. Tonight, Columbus is in Edmonton to take on McDavid, Draisaitl, and the Oilers, coming off that tough one Saturday against the Avs. Check out the link in our description for the Prime Monday Night Hockey schedule on Prime Video, or go to primevideo.com/NHL. Also on Prime Video, Faceoff Inside the NHL Season 2. Subscribe with a 30-day free trial to Prime Video to watch Monday Night Hockey and the new season of Faceoff. Download the app or go to primevideo.com. With that, we'll bring in the co-host from the 100% Hockey Podcast, a longtime hockey observer, good friend. There he is. I miss talking to him because we tend to go on weird tangents. The one and only John Shannon, who joins me now. John, how are you today?
I'm good, Jeffy. How are you?
Good. I was thinking about you on Saturday with the passing of Mel Bridgman, former Flyers first overall draft pick, and then first general manager of the Ottawa Senators. And ironically enough, Saturday the Philadelphia Flyers played the Ottawa Senators, and somewhere Mel Bridgman was smiling, and I said, that is a John Shannon observation that I'm making. Like, that's the space you occupy in my brain here, John. Before we get into hockey issues, do you have a thought on either the passing of Mel Bridgman or Leon Stickle?
Well, I knew both of them very well. In fact, when Mel got traded from Philadelphia to Calgary, Mel lived at my house for 4 months.
No way.
So, yeah. So we were actually playing golf at a golf course in Calgary with Jim Poplinski and someone else, and we're walking down the 18th fairway, and I said, "So Mel, where are you living?" And he said, "Well, I'm still at a hotel." I said, "Well, I have an extra room." And next thing you know, he's running across the fairway yelling "roomie" at me. So that became. So Mel was there until his lovely wife Anne showed up.
Great.
And they had a house in Lower Mount Royal in Calgary for the time that Mel played for the Flames. Well, the other story about Mel is I remember we were out, and don't laugh at this, Jeff.
Okay. We
were out jogging because that's something I don't really know much about, and Mel and I were talking about money, and he and I were saying Mel had just signed a 10-year contract for $170,000 a year. So he told me, he says, I'm set. 10 years, $170,000, and he and I were about the same age, and I said, well, that's great. Because in year 11, I hope to be making $170,000 a year, and year 12, and year 13, and year 14. In fact, I expect to make $170,000 for the rest of my life, Mel. What about you? And he literally stopped in the middle of the street. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're not going to play hockey all your life. And whether that was a revelation for Mel, he did go back to the University of Pennsylvania, to the Wharton School of Business.
Yeah,
and was really a smart guy, and did many great things within the hockey world and also in the business world before he passed.
Danny Briere did the same thing after he retired. Went to Wharton and ended up as the manager, as we all know, of the Philadelphia Flyers. Quick thought on Leon Stickle. I was sharing the mustache story at the old Spectrum before he came on.
Well, that game that Leon made the botch call on the blue line was my first Stanley Cup final as the producer. So
Hockey Night.
and at Hockey Night in Canada in 1980. You know what? There were 4 teams always involved in a great game. There were the 2 teams on the ice, and there was always Hockey Night in Canada, and there was always the officials. Yeah. And we ended up becoming traveling companions of all the officials, whether it was Bruce Hood or Brian Lewis or Leon Stickle or Ron Finn or Claude Béchard, Ron Wicks, Wally Harris. They were part of the band of brothers that went around the game, and Leon was one of those guys that you loved to sit and talk and tell stories, and nobody had a better laugh. Nobody had a better laugh than Leon Stickle, and he was part of that Georgetown Mafia. You know that, Jeff.
Oh yeah,
that was a big part of
Ontario
of hockey lore, and was just. There were some people that were involved in the game because you could see how much they loved the game, and Leon was one of them.
Absolutely. Speaking of people who have loved the game, and now the game has, I suppose, officially loved them back. Do you have a thought on the class that's going into the Hall today, from your Botterills to your Charas to your Keiths to your Parkers to your Thorntons, all the way down to your McGillneys to the Deckers and Sauvageaus? Do you have a thought on this class?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a large class. I mean, that's the one thing. And so let's hope that the 8 of them are respectful of each other so that we're not listening to speeches at 1:30 in the morning. The one thing I would say is that there's 2 people that probably amongst the 8 aren't getting near the attention they deserve. One is Jack Parker. For his contributions, and as soon as Jerry York got in to the Hall a couple of years back, you knew it was realistic that Jackie Parker was going to be the next one of those great college coaches to get in the game, and the people he touched, and what he meant to the hockey world in New England. And Danielle Sauvageau, who really in many ways was such a calming influence as the coach of Team Canada and in Salt Lake City, but she was a damn good hockey player too, Jeff. She played the game at an elite level. So those 2 of the 8 probably aren't going to get near the acclaim. Brianna Decker, there was that small cabal of American players that were faster than light on the ice for the American women's team, and Brianna was one of those, and she has earned every bit of respect in and around the game. And Jen Botterill, the same thing. When you think about what she did at Harvard, what she did for the game of hockey and playing and winning, I still want to, we all get touched by individual stories. So my son Jake was a goaltender by trade, and we had a Sunday morning practice every week at the old Dixie Arena. And
that
was
old
one of those
beautiful barn on Dundas Street. Yeah.
And we would have to wait to go on the ice because there was this women's team practicing.
Yeah.
And some of the fathers on our team would say, "Well, what are we waiting for? Why we should be getting out on the ice?" And then I looked out and there were 9 Olympians. There were 9 gold medal winners on this women's team playing hockey, including Jen. And that's I've known Jen a long time. She lives just around the corner from us, and Jen is well deserving of what she's done. And the Botterill name is a famous hockey name in our country, and it's good to see them get some recognition at this level.
2 things. Coming off your comments about Jack Parker, I know that it takes a lobby and a presentation and all of that. I do understand that there is a group that's very much pushing for Red Berenson. We always talk about, and you just mentioned it, one person opens a door for someone else. I still, no one's ever confirmed this, but it's my belief, whatever that is worth, that when Pavel Bure went in, that opened the door for Eric Lindros. All of a sudden, someone with numbers like that opened the door for Eric Lindros. Mm-hmm. Does this further open the door for someone like Red Berenson?
Oh, I would never argue that Red Berenson shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I think his impact on the game, his impact on Michigan Wolverines hockey is tremendous. And the ancillary part of that, Jeff, is that Red Berenson and Bill Hay were 2 of the first ever college trained players to get to the NHL. Now Berenson will never get in as a player, unfortunately, even though he was a prolific goal scorer at times in St. Louis. But his impact in and around the game in Ann Arbor has, I think it's been carried on now. And Red is one of those guys that once you get to know Red, and I was fortunate, and I am fortunate to know Red, that you think that this guy has always done it for the love of the game. And all the graduates that have come out of his program seem to have gone on to great hockey careers and great personal careers as well. And you're right. If there's another college coach that deserves to be in, then you'd have to put a guy like Red Berenson on that list.
Okay, one more follow-up on the Hall of Fame. You know how I get stuck on things, John? I don't know if you know this about me.
I know. That might be something new, Jeff.
I know. So in order to spice up the Hall, let me frame it one specific way. Hockey has always been described as the ultimate team sport. How do you feel about putting teams in like basketball does?
Well, there's always the way around it, but with you consider the displays that we see at the hall for instance, the Summit Series of '72.
Mm-hmm.
There has been one for Lake
team.
Placid.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there are ways to get around what the hall is all about. I as much as I know that you believe and I believe that hockey is the ultimate team sport, I think the Hall of Fame should be reserved for individuals. To me, the ultimate team recognition is an Olympic gold medal and winning the Stanley Cup, and I'm satisfied to leave it at that. This is one place where an individual's contributions to the game could and should be honored. So it doesn't irk me that they're not there. Mm-hmm. And perhaps with new management at the hall, perhaps with a new attitude of what's going on at the hall, they can make things like that a little more marketable. But I'm not going to lose sleep over teams not getting recognition. I think when you get the ring and you get your name on the trophy, mm-hmm. That's a pretty good recognition. And let's remember, there's a display this year for the second year in a row for the Florida Panthers. And to me, that's enough.
Okay. And because I can never leave good enough alone, I want to go one step further, John. As a way to be a leader, and this
you only have 30 minutes, right?
I know. One more thing really quickly here. How about putting in individual games that move the game forward? Lake Placid. Pick your Summit Series game. I think that game 1 was the most important. Canadians seem to feel that game 8 was the most important. Whichever one you want to choose. Games that are forever, and this doesn't have to be every year, but games that are forever burned into our memories. Just as a way to be different, to stand out amongst the crowd. We've got a great game. Why not celebrate individual games? You picking that one up?
No, I don't like that one. Sorry, but I would suggest that there are ways within the hall to honor special games, particularly when they have interactive displays where perhaps I can do my own call of the Miracle on Ice. Perhaps I can do my own call of Paul Henderson's goal in '72. Perhaps I can call Bob Nystrom's overtime goal in 1980 my own way. And then I'm able to take it home and say, hey, listen, I was better than Al Michaels, I was better than Foster Hewitt, and I was better than Jim Robb.
Okay, to the game today. Let me ask you a question. Is Vancouver the new Cole Harbour?
So I mean, you're very cliquey with your phrases. What does that mean?
So where once upon a time this was.
I know where Cole Harbour is.
Of course, you know where Cole Harbour is. So we're thinking about Crosby and McKinnon. Who's from Van? Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini. Has Cole Harbour moved to British Columbia now, John? With these two kids taking.
By the way, there's a Cole Harbour in Vancouver too. You know that, right?
I do.
You might want to add through relatives Gavin McKenna too, right? Yes. Since he's related to Connor Bedard. So that's an interesting one. What we're seeing is the development of certain parts of minor hockey programs in different parts of our country, at least, and certainly we've seen it in different parts of the United States at times as well. So I can buy that. It's a little early for me to buy into Cole Harbour West at this point, just because what we do is we tend to jump on bandwagons every once in a while, just a shade too early. But it's certainly worth watching. There's no question that the North Shore has become a great hockey factory from the days when I was a child, when you could count on two fingers how many people from the province of British Columbia actually played in the NHL for so many years. I mean, Cesar Maniego and John Ferguson were it for a decade. And things have changed, and now British Columbia has become a hockey factory.
The whole West has, it's with the rise of the with the rise of the academy model of development. You're seeing superstars coming out of the Western League and coming out of Western Canada on a consistent basis. And the one that sort of is getting
you got to give Andy Oakes and the boys at the Okanagan Hockey School a lot of credit
100%.
because
they were the OGs.
Andy
there.
And his group,
they were the OGs.
What Andy has done, and now they have I believe they have an established facility in
Whitby,
east of Toronto as well.
Whitby.
So they've done a really good job. And Andy's, Andy has, in my opinion, Andy has the best interest of the game at heart as well. And I think that's something you don't necessarily see in everybody that opens an academy, but certainly that's what they've done, starting with the original Okanagan Hockey School in Penticton.
Yep, and I can still remember Aaron Ward, and after the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup, and they do those flashes of the players and who is your favorite player, and he said Bob McGill, and the story was when he was at Okanagan and he wanted to quit and he was done with hockey, it was Bob McGill, who was one of the instructors there, who said, "I'm going to stay with you the whole camp. I'm not going to let you quit." And for that reason, Aaron hung on to it, and his career obviously ended up becoming a National Hockey Leaguer. But that one always stuck with me, and that goes all the way back to Okanagan as well. In the couple of moments that I have left with you here, John, let me ask you what happens next for Edmonton. Or do we look at Saturday night? Because like many people, I was sitting there Saturday night. My kid was at a Kitchener tournament. All the parents were out enjoying themselves. And I'm locked in my hotel room. I am not missing this game. I am going to watch Edmonton and Colorado, two of the high-flying teams in the NHL. This one is going to be a banger. And it turned out to be a 9-1 drubbing. Oilers are back in action tonight. But what happens now with the Edmonton Oilers? Or do you just look at that and say, it's early in the season. Park it.
Well, you could put the gymnastics marking and the Russian judge and say, okay, that one's just an outlier and it doesn't make sense, and you get rid of it. But I think there has to be concern in Edmonton. You can't rely on Leon and Connor all the time. There has to be other people. Zach Hyman has been certainly missed. We had Chris Knobloch on our show on Friday, and he thinks that Zack will be back next week on their road trip, which is good news. But there's just something missing, and particularly more on the defensive side of the puck than there is anything else. Evan Bouchard has not had a good start to the season. Darnell has been in and out as far as his play. Matthias Ekholm. I actually think Matthias Ekholm is trying to do too much now.
Shooting too much,
and he's lost his
shooting too much.
Well,
I think he is.
I'm not worried about that end of the ice, Jeff. I'm worried about the 16 feet in front of Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, and I just think that Matthias is trying to do too many things because Evans had a struggle, and so that's a big part. Brett Kulak, who had a great season last year, again, rather inconsistent right now. And Jake Wallman, since coming back, and they missed him for the first part of the season since coming back, Jake Wallman's been inconsistent. And I know, like our pal Stauffer talks about lots of things that are positive about this team, and the analytics point to the Oilers having a good defense, but they may have good analytics, but they don't pass the eyeball test. And the eyeball test right now says there's something awry with the blue line. And I don't know. And I can guarantee you that Stan Bowman is trying to figure it out. And so is Chris Knobloch. I also think they might miss Paul Coffey a little bit. And that's not a knock at any of the other coaches. But, Paul was able to get through to certain guys and make them better with an unorthodox coaching style. That he didn't necessarily use video very much, but he was very straightforward and let the players make mistakes and then, tried to make sure that they didn't do it again. And I do think they miss Paul on the bench at this point.
Final question. What's your concern meter at for the Vancouver Canucks? Where is it? The Demko explanations were a little interesting from Adam Foote before the weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him play tomorrow, quite honestly.
I hope for Vancouver's sake that he's fine to go and he is playing tomorrow.
I'll tell you what, with the amount of injuries that they have had, I think the fact that they're at NHL 500 is a miracle. I really do. Yeah. They are working hard. They truly are working hard. I think that they're getting really, we can talk all you want about some of their stars. I think Brock Besser's really had a pretty good start. I think Evander Kane knows his role in this club and has been okay. Has he been great? No, but he certainly hasn't been a detriment. If everybody comes back and is healthy, then this team can still make a run for the playoffs, and then it'll point to number 40. Can number 40 do exactly what number 40 is supposed to do? Here's the thing, Jeff, with Pettersson. I see him doing a lot of stuff, blocking shots. The overtime goal that Besser scored in Nashville was just a great, simple little check by Pettersson in front of the net that allowed the puck to squeeze through to Besser. He's doing a lot of stuff, except he ain't scoring. He's not scoring, and he's supposed to score.
That's it. You know what? You're not getting 11 sheets to block shots. Blocking shots, that's awesome. I'm with you. I think amongst forwards, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's either number 1 or number 2 amongst forwards in the NHL.
Well, he was number 1 on the weekend.
So there you go. And that's great, but I want 100 points from Vancouver.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, that's the way the system is built in Vancouver, is that Elias Pettersson is supposed to do lots of things. And he certainly has improved, I think, a lot of parts of his game, but he's got to put points on the board. Yeah. And that's right now, because that's the one thing that every Canuck fan is valuing is why isn't he our leading scorer? He should be our leading scorer. They've got Kiefer Sherwood and they've got Connor Garland. They got, the 2 Tasmanian Devils. I love watching them play. But hockey fans in Vancouver need Pettersson to be the leading scorer, and right now it's not happening.
Listen, this is great. Boy, I miss talking to you. I hope you're well. Continued success with 100% hockey. It's excellent, as are you. Thanks for sharing expertise. And even though you didn't like any of my Hall of Fame ideas, I still love you, John Shannon. Yeah. I still do.
Well, you know what? Here's the deal. You and I are getting close to the fact that we can still get into the Hall of Fame and get a senior's discount. I think it's fantastic. So.
How's the roast beef dinner there? We still get the discount for our ages here yet, John?
Yeah, but the roast beef dinner's at 4:00 now. You know that, huh?
That's fine, because bedtime is 7. That's fine. No problem. We love it.
No, not for you or me. Not for you or me. We're all watching Leo Carlson at 12:30 at night, mister.
God, is he big? That whole team is fun. Cutter Gauthier has been outstanding. Jackson Lacombe has been. Chris Kreider all of a sudden. Like if the NHL had a comeback player of the year, it would be Chris Kreider right now, right? Like I'm not missing something here. It would be Kreider
or Jacob Trouba. I mean, I tell you what, both of them have been really good. And how about young Seneca? Oh my gosh!
Oh, I know.
He's been great. He was really good last night. Boy, oh boy, he was impressive to watch. Pat Verbeek's done a hell of a job there.
He really has. And this was the year they were supposed to show results, and early on they are showing results. Excellent stuff. Thanks, John, as always.
Cheers.
There he is, John Shannon from 100% Hockey, joining us here on the sheet. We're going to talk next about the Philadelphia Flyers with our local expert around here from The Athletic. Want to remind you, though, quickly, the segment is a presentation of Bauer and the Bauer Plus, the first Bauer stick to feature their latest kick point innovation. This is really cool. Powered by 2 distinct energy zones in the shaft, low and mid. The stick is designed to adapt to your game with the loadability and precision of a mid kick and the explosive, unexpected release of a low kick. Catch goaltenders by surprise with a quick shot they'll never see coming, or make dynamic plays in the zone that will have defenders scrambling. Combine all that with a new raised grip ink on the shaft, and Pulse will stay in your hands while you put the game in your hands. Exclusive to Bauer Hockey, the Pulse contains ultra lightweight and rigid boron fiber material, which creates a high strength to weight ratio and optimizes energy storage and increases reactivity. Featured on 40 flex sticks and above. For more information, check out Bauer.com. With that, let's bring aboard our good friend Kevin Kurz from The Athletic, covering all things Philadelphia Flyers. And Kevin, thanks as always for stopping by. Before we get to Couturier and Michkov and the situation with the Philadelphia Flyers right now, kicked off the show by just a couple of words about Mel Bridgman earlier on. The Flyers, first overall pick in 75. Ottawa's first ever general manager, so a little bit of poetry. That Saturday it was the Philadelphia Flyers facing off against the Ottawa Senators. Somewhere Mel Bridgman smiles. Did you have any interactions ever with Mel Bridgman? How is this going? Flyers love their alumni, as we know. How's this resonating through the organization?
Yeah, to be honest, he wasn't a guy I think that really had all that much notoriety amongst the fan base. You look at the teams here, it's the Stanley Cup era teams in the 70s. Yeah. And then it's that young 80s team featuring guys like Dave Poulin, Mark Howe,
Ron
Hextall, Pelle Lindbergh, who is a notable name today too. It's the 40-year anniversary of his fatal crash. I don't think Mel Bridgman was a guy that really was all that came up all that often amongst this fan base, but obviously it's a shame to see him pass at still it's a fairly young age.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned Pelle Lindbergh as well. There was that rise of the first wave of European netminders in the NHL. It was tough at first. Hardy Astrom with Colorado, who I thought was really good. He got run out of town. Essentially, Marcus Matson struggled. Yuri Sira struggled. The first one to really establish himself, and we saw a lot of glimpses of potential greatness, was Pelle Lindbergh. He was poised to be the first superstar European-trained NHL netminder. All derailed, of course, by an alcohol-fueled crash in his Porsche. It was just, first of all, awful for the family that we think of, awful for Flyers fans, but hockey lost a lot when Pelle Lindbergh passed away.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me. I don't really remember that. I remember Pelle Lindbergh's crash was probably one of my first memories, just as a kid, not even as a sports fan. But in talking to some of these guys, Dave Poulin, Al Morganti, who Jeff is in the Hall of Fame, was covering the team at the time. Pelle became really the fan favorite here very quickly, and part of that is because Mike Keenan, who deserves credit, he went to Pelle. They had lunch before Keenan's first year. He told Pelle, "You're my guy. You're my number one goalie," and that was a little bit surprising for Pelle because he had actually struggled the season before, but he took that ball, he ran with it, wins the Vezina Trophy in '85. And the fans saw in Pelle basically just a younger version of Bernie Parent, who was obviously beloved here for winning the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, but also for his personality. They saw Bernie, who had the, a little bit of a quirky guy. He's got the accent, the foreign accent, right? The French accent. Pelle's got the thick Swedish accent. They look the same on the ice, both wearing that white mask, both the stand-up goaltenders.
Angles.
So, and back then in the 80s, it wasn't, now in Philadelphia, it's Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. But back then, the Flyers were arguably the most popular team. Those two Stanley Cup championships were not far back in the memories of a lot of those fans. And, Pelle takes them to the Stanley Cup Finals where they lose to Wayne Gretzky's Oilers. And so I think that's why it still resonates, is just because he was really at the height of his popularity. He's a burgeoning star. He's playing a very notable position in this city, as has been the case for 50 years. And I think that's why even today, when Flyers fans of a certain age, and even those younger that didn't ever see him play, like me, frankly, they still hold Pelle Lindbergh with a certain amount of reverence.
As they should. To the Flyers right now, and I believe was it your question to Sean Couturier that led to the, I don't know, do we want to call it lambasting, the calling out? I don't even know how I would describe it. How would you describe how we heard Sean Couturier talk about Matvei Michkov?
Yeah, well, just to set the scene here, a few minutes earlier we had spoke to Michkov, and he talked about how much not scoring has been weighing on him emotionally, and he's been through a lot, right? It's the coming to camp out of shape. It's him admitting again moments earlier that he didn't train the best way in the off season, and to me that's a good sign. That's a young player recognizing, hey, I already know what I have to do differently next summer, and I think he's somebody that will go ahead and do that. But it was, he had scored the game before in Nashville. He talked about it being a huge weight off of his shoulders, and you could really tell that it was affecting him not getting on the scoreboard, right? He's a scorer. He wants to score like all of them do.
Yeah.
So, Sean Couturier is the captain. I thought it was, I specifically asked him because he's the captain. And it's, what are you guys doing to try to get through to Matvei to help him through what's obviously been a difficult time for him? And that's when he went into his explanation just about how, Michkov, he's got to know that he has to do other things away from the puck when he doesn't, when he's not scoring. And if you look at the last game, so Michkov, I think a lot of fans looked at the game and they saw Michkov score a beautiful goal. Certainly his biggest highlight of the season so far. And after that, you could tell that weight was off his shoulders. He was skating faster. He was dynamic. He was as dangerous offensively as he's been all season. But there were also moments in that game that, again, he's got to get out of his game, which I think Couturier was alluding to. If you go back and look at the first Ottawa goal, and they talked about this yesterday, Tocchet talked about this yesterday, Couturier thought Michkov should have been in the slot guarding Tim Stützle, so that goal doesn't happen. Instead, Michkov's cutting up the ice already. And then if you look at the third period, there's a minute and a half left in a 2-2 game, and Michkov tries this dangerous cross-ice pass through the neutral zone that gets picked off and results in a really good scoring chance for Dylan Cousins. Again, this is a minute and a half left. You can't do that in that sort of a situation. So, clearly Michkov is still learning that aspect of the game, but, I think a little bit too much was made of Couturier's comments. He was responding to a question specifically about Michkov. Yeah. He wasn't saying anything that would have sounded out of place coming from Rick Tocchet. And as you know, Jeff, obviously the captain in a lot of respects is an extension of the coaching staff. So that's really what I thought what he was, that's how I took it anyway.
There is this sort of element here, considering this is the sophomore season, and look, ask Connor Bedard that's all about, and the pressures that come along with it. I find that there's a lot made about a young player, and I keep reminding myself, you can't have super high expectations for kids. You can't, whether you're Connor Bedard or Macklin Celebrini, now we're all gaga, and rightfully so, I think, about Matthew Schaefer, and this is the kid's second year. And you're going to have growing pains. And a couple of things. The NHL is a really hard league to play in, and last time I checked, the other team was allowed to try hard too. This is tough. It's a really, I don't care what you did overseas. I don't care what you did when you were in junior or what you did in the American League. It's a hard league to play in. It really is. And I'm not surprised that there's a frustration that comes along with not scoring for Michkov.
No, and, he's on his second coach in 2 years now, right? And so Rick Tocchet is trying to implement some very specific things offensively, which Travis Sanheim told me something a couple days ago in Montreal. He said, basically, we didn't have much of an offensive system before. He's alluding to John Tortorella. It was basically, Torts obviously wanted the defenseman to get up and be aggressive and all that. But, Tocchet's trying to do some very specific things in the offensive zone. And so, Michkov, just like everybody else, is adjusting to that. But obviously Michkov doesn't have any experience to really fall back on. So, that's been a little bit of a problem. And so that's something he can't control. But again, he can control coming into camp in better shape. And that's something that I think has been very, it's obvious now. It's been reported a few times by me and others. He didn't show up in good enough shape. And so again, the fact that he admitted that after the Senators game, and I asked him that question too, specifically, how do you feel now physically compared to how you were at the start of the season? And he said, and again, it's through an interpreter, but basically he said it was the first time he took 4 months off of hockey in his life. And so training was different. So, he knows next, whether that means he wants to get on the ice sooner next year or do some different things in the gym. But, that was him admitting that he has to train differently next summer. And again, I give him a lot of credit for having that sort of self-awareness at 20 years old.
It's interesting too. Once upon a time, I remember there was a great line by Scotty Bowman. I can't remember who he was talking to about it. And he was talking about coaching philosophies for players and how you can't coach every single player the exact same way. And he brought up the example of a 30-goal scorer. And he said, look, if you have someone that can score you 30 goals, it shouldn't be your job to turn them into a Selke Trophy candidate. It should be your job to say, this guy can score 30, I'm going to help him score 40. Like something has changed. Like I know that there are certain non-negotiables for every single coach, and a lot of them involve play away from the puck and the defensive side of the puck. But I really I always come back to that Bowman quote. If you have a 30-goal scorer, it's your job to make sure that guy gets 40. You accentuate what they're good at. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and I don't. When I'm looking at this from Couturier's perspective, he's been a part of a losing organization for a long time now, right? I mean, their team had some success early on. That's not where they're at now. Organizationally, Danny Briere has said, we want to win. We want to take the next step forward. So that's different than Briere's first 2 years when it was mostly about subtraction. So if you're Sean Couturier, you know that in order for this team to win games and get to where you want to go, you're going to need Matvei Michkov. You're going to need him to take another step. He's going to have to be a huge part of this, whether it's this year or next year. So, is there a little bit of frustration there with Couturier and maybe some of the older veterans when Michkov is making some of these mistakes? I'm sure there is, right? They want to win hockey games. But that's not, then you see online some of these suggestions that they all hate Matvei Michkov. I mean, it's I don't even like mentioning it just because it's so stupid. But, they want to work with him. Couturier wants to work with him. Maybe there's a little bit of frustration because of the way he came to camp and because of how much he has struggled early on, and he is still making some mistakes that he probably shouldn't be making as much as he has been, frankly. But, they want to win games. They need Matvei Michkov to be not perfect defensively, but certainly you have to do certain things like, not throw a cross-ice pass with a minute and a half left to their neutral zone in a 2-2 game.
I'm going to try right now, Kevin, not to make this sound pretentious, but here I go. I kind of look at putting teams together like art in one specific way. You're either doing sculpture or you're painting. Sculpture is art by subtraction, and painting is art by addition. Are they done with the art by subtraction now, or is that still ongoing?
Geez, that's really deep, Jeff.
Well, it is Monday, 2:00 Eastern.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's too early to say because, or too early to say one way or the other because we have to see how this season goes, right? They're 8-5-2.
Yep.
That's probably a little bit better than maybe some expected them to be. You've seen the standings, right? Everybody sees the standings, how tightly packed everyone is. Yep. They've had a lot of their games at home. Mostly they've been at home, so we'll see how they grind through some road games. But the hope obviously is that they don't want to subtract anymore. And that's something that both Danny Briere and Keith Jones have said. They don't want to find themselves in a position where they're selling off assets at the trade deadline just for, future draft picks or prospects. They hope that is over with. And, the one guy I look at that'll be a real litmus test for that is Christian Dvorak, who is a pretty good center. He's a 200-foot player. He wins faceoffs. He penalty kills. I mean, he's basically the textbook definition of a player that a lot of contending teams might be looking for at the deadline, right? And the Flyers overpaid to get him. He's making, I think, $5 million, which is too much for a player of his caliber. But, it made sense for the Flyers because they needed another center. So that he's going to be the guy for me that we're, if you start hearing his name in trade rumors in January, February, and that'll probably mean two things. The Flyers aren't very good, and they're looking to still unload players for future assets. But, if they're in the playoff mix come March 1st, Dvorak and everybody else, I feel like they'll hang on to them and keep them together.
I could have just asked you if the rebuild is done, but I respect you too much, so I had to go with the pretentious art analogy. Let me close on this. Trevor Zegras, anything on an extension? Because it seems like he is in a different headspace altogether and a different performance space altogether. I think there's still elements of like youthful exuberance with Trevor Zegras. But already, like with one trade, he's a much more mature player from me watching from the comforts of my couch. You're right there. You can color this one in better than I can.
Yeah, and I actually did talk to him a little bit yesterday, and I haven't gotten around to writing it or tweeting about it yet. But, I asked him about the contract extension stuff, and he says, he hasn't thought about it yet. And
Okay.
A noteworthy quote, yeah. But, the notable part of it to me is, so I go back to the game in Montreal where he had his 200th point. Was it 200th point, I guess? Yeah, 200th point in there, or assist or whatever it was. And he was asked, how much does it mean to you to get to, and he said, well, it means more because it was Cam York who scored the goal, right? That's his best friend. And, he went and started talking about how coming to the rink every day is great, the energy in the rink. And that's partially because he's got some good friends in that room. Cam York, Jamie Drysdale from Anaheim, even Christian Dvorak he was friends with because he knows him through Cole Caulfield. So I think right away he felt more himself and he enjoys the atmosphere of that dressing room every day. But he had nothing but effusive praise for the organization as a whole, top to bottom. I asked him, well, what's important to you when you make those decisions about your future? And, not surprisingly, he said winning. I want to win. And that was really the only thing he mentioned. So, we'll see. There was some cliche answers there, which didn't surprise me. But I do think he enjoys it here. I think he's made that clear. I really think he's done all the right things and said all the right things since he's gotten here. And so far from Danny Briere's perspective, it looks like a home run. And we'll see if some of this extension talk starts to pick up a little bit.
Absolutely. Listen, thanks for putting up with my annoying questions. You're great.
Never,
thanks
Jeff,
so
much
for sharing your expertise with us on all of it. And keep poking the bear and getting those great quotes out of Sean Couturier. Great job. We'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks, my friend.
There he is, Kevin Kurz from The Athletic, covering the Philadelphia Flyers. He's a second-year player. I don't know what to say about Matvei Michkov other than hard league, good player who's still trying to find his way. And the second year is always more difficult than, I shouldn't say always, is usually more difficult than the first year. And I think that he's going to be absolutely fine, whether it's issues with other teammates, which again, I'm not there, so I don't know. But according to Kevin, that's ridiculous. Or playing the way that Rick Tocchet wants Matvei Michkov to play. Anywho, Zach, what are we leaving on the table here? Anything you need me to go over today? You think that I'm left behind? No topic left behind on this show, Zach. No topic left behind.
Everything we've planned to do, we've covered, so I'm happy with that.
Really,
We don't need to talk about any other Canadian teams or anything. I think we're all set in that department today, Jeff. So just FanDuel and some other cool podcasts and shows coming up across the network.
You don't want to mention how like the Rangers are, the mid-70s Flyers on the road, and at home they're the 74 Capitals. You don't want me to point that out? No, I just want to
I'm saving things for FanDuel. Don't blow this.
How the Bruins have won 6 games in a row, and
the Bruins are a wagon,
lighting the league on fire, and Leo Carlson, who we all hate game management, but that's exactly what they use to get this guy into the NHL, and we're very precise about how they did it. And that's absolutely paying off huge for the Anaheim Ducks right now, which are quickly becoming appointment television. I'm sorry to everybody watching or listening in the East, but you should stay up to watch Anaheim games because, man, are they ever worth it. And right now, Leo Carlsson's on a different planet. In the meantime, the sheet is powered by FanDuel. I don't want to take any more of your thunder than I already have. This is your segment, after all. The sheet is powered by FanDuel. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the NHL season, and FanDuel is your home for all the action on the ice. From Blue Line to Bet Slip, we've got you covered all season with unique promos, live offerings, and more features to let you play your game. Missed puck drop? No sweat. With a live same-game parlay, you can build up your bets until the final buzzer. Download FanDuel Sportsbook today and play your game. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, and physically located in Ontario. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or the gambling of someone close to you, please contact Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge. Zack.
Yeah, this one's simple. I'm looking at stoppable force versus movable objects tonight in New York.
Okay.
The Rangers are heavily favored against the Nashville Predators, -184, Nashville +152. There's other ones on the board that are interesting. Like every Islanders game I want to watch, regardless of if I think they're going to win or not, just because I want to watch Matthew Schaefer.
Same.
Edmonton is going to be exciting, as we talked about the prime Monday night game here tonight. Mostly for me, and no disrespect, Columbus. Like I've enjoyed watching Columbus, but like, how the hell are the Oilers responding? Florida, Vegas. I mean, I'll just be completely honest. I'm gonna watch it. It's on my TV, but just the interest level is slightly toned down when you talk about, as you said, Detroit, Vegas last week. You're missing Barkov. You're missing Tkachuk. It's just not quite there.
You're not going to get anything. You're not going to learn anything out of this one. If you're looking for games early in the season, you can learn. You're not learning anything about the Florida Panthers right now. You're not. You're just like, can they keep their head above water until they get some guys back? That's it. Like if you're the Panthers, that's all you're thinking. Heads above water. That's it. Keep treading water. Keep treading water. The reinforcements are coming. That's it.
Yeah. By the way, did you see the pictures circulating of Barkov training on his own in a park
already
somewhere in Florida?
I know.
This guy went under surgery a month ago. 1 month.
The quickest healers in hockey are always the Swedes. Like how many times did you see like, Alfredsson's gone, 3 to 4 months, 6 weeks he's back. And like this is true of like I don't know how Swedes heal so fast. It's a sweeping statement, I get it, but it just always feels like Swedish hockey players heal faster than anybody else. But Barkov's Finnish.
Yeah. Figured it out. Whatever they've got going on over there.
Whatever they're doing in Sweden, all of a sudden through Barkov, the Finns have come. I know, I was stunned. I was like, first of all, that's awesome. That's great. I miss watching Barkov on a regular basis. I think we all do. But two, it's like, how do you do it so fast? It's like Ovechkin last year. Like we broke a leg and he's back in 16 games. Like what? You remember like once upon a time, like I know I'm older than you, but once upon a time, like that was like, well, he's gone for the season. And they're back in a month. It's incredible.
It's always funny to me too. It's like, well, a break is better than a pull or a strain or a tear or whatever. You hear those, a fracture because it's a clean whatever and it can go back. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to pretend, but that's what is thrown out there constantly is like you hear about those. And it's like, okay, hold on. Sure. He still broke his leg. Like that's at the end of the day, he did. And by the way, Alex Ovechkin, he's not 25 and he's making that comeback. I don't know, ridiculous. But
I know.
Yeah, this Nashville New York game, it's screaming like must watch from the perspective of at what point during the game tonight do we hear Jonny Lazarus screaming from the press box, somebody score a goal?
As the Preds go up 3-0 in the first period. Poor Laz.
You're just going to hear the loudest expletives from the press box.
Make sure Laz has someone near him at all times. All times. Speaking of Laz, we got a new podcast here at Daily Faceoff. And I can't wait to hear this thing. It's been sort of brewing for a while, and I'm glad that they all got to pull this together. So introducing, and I love the name of this too, the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. Each week, Jonny Lazarus, Mike Rupp, and Arthur Staple break down everything happening across the New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, and New York Islanders, from on-ice storylines to locker room insights to everything in between. This is so cool. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Wednesday right here at our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. All links to listen and subscribe are included in the description of this show, the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. Jonny Lazarus, Mike Rupp, and Arthur Staple. Very much looking forward to that. We've added a couple of bangers so far this year. Also, The Sauce, speaking of which, is a brand new show launching on the Nation Network, already has. You're going to want to check it out. Grab a coffee, tune into The Sauce with hosts Ryder and Lisa. If you want a mix of laughs, sports talk, and conversations you didn't know you needed in your life, this weekday morning show is for you. Live every morning, 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Started on November the 3rd on the Oilers Nation YouTube channel. The longtime Edmonton radio hosts are going all digital and bringing their candid humor to video. Be sure to subscribe at the Oilers Nation YouTube channel and stream their show on your go-to podcast platform. So check out The Sauce, and starting tomorrow, check out the Tri-State Hockey Podcast as well. You want to try signing us off again?
Sure, I can, but I wanted to ask you one quick question before we wrap the show today.
Yes.
Do you think, let's do the predictions game, because this always goes so well for people, especially in media.
Especially me. Predictions are not the bane of my existence at all. At the beginning
this one
of
will be a little bit more of
we get editors send us your predictions for the season. My prediction is I have no idea. That's why I tend to watch the games.
Yeah, no, this one is a more generic one, and it's we're going to know tonight. Do you think McDavid just goes nuclear tonight? Like, do you think that this is I cannot? Yeah, I think this is him saying, screw this.
He pops off like the cork just exploded out of a champagne bottle. Don't forget, for the top dogs of the Edmonton Oilers, that was, I know those who shrug it off and say, "Oh, it's November, you're making too much out of it." That was humiliating. That was, and you could tell, like, Connor McDavid will treat a 1-goal loss as like we can't stand. Like, that's the level that he's set for himself. I can only imagine what a 9-1 drubbing at home on Hockey Night in Canada does to Connor McDavid's head. Like, at a certain point, it's like, no way, we're not doing this. No chance. I am not going to let this happen. Tonight's going to teach you a lot about the Oilers, I think. How do you respond to this if you're Edmonton? Because I really do think there's only so long you can surf on the idea that we're the team that struggles early but puts it all together by the end of the season. Like, that's a really, really dangerous way, A, to think, and B, play. Like, all season long, up until Saturday, and maybe just because I put too much on that Saturday night game because I was so excited to watch it, and then just turned into Cale Makar snaps in two, and then the route is on. There's only so long you can do we're going to be fine. And up until Saturday, I was doing the same. You know what? Don't worry about the Oilers. They're going to be fine. They do this every year. After watching that, I'm like, I don't know, guys. I don't know if I can just do that. Don't worry. They'll pull it together. And they'll be fine. They'll be right back in the Stanley Cup final, and Connor's giving them the discount of all time, and they're gonna, replenish the field next year, blah 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 blah. But after watching that game on Saturday, I can't ignore what's happened and just shrug it off and say, yeah, they'll be fine. They'll pull it together. Yeah. That's what they do. That's so dangerous to live that way. Not a chance. You agree with that?
100%. 100%. It's the same thing I'm dealing with here in Toronto, where at some point,
what's happening there?
To the point of like,
what happened there this weekend? Anything interesting?
No, nothing to talk about. We'll keep that moving. But again, it's the same conversation what you said, where it's like, oh, it'll be fine. And then at some point, it's not fine. And you're like, whoa, how did we get here? Well, actually, there was this whole blueprint that we watched happen and said, no, that's not real. It's not happening. And I think at some point here, McDavid is going to start to claw his own eyes out watching what's happening on the ice around him. And to be fair, I mean, I know that he's not playing poorly, but him and Draisaitl at some point here probably gonna have to kind of say like, let's go, let's change this.
Can I ask you a question about
tonight?
Can I ask you, Toronto, about a question about the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, sure.
It's November the 10th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tough weekend. Right? Mm-hmm. Boston, Carolina. How many times have you played the lottery simulator? Be honest.
Like to the point where at first it was funny and I was like, haha, like I did the lottery simulator.
Now
like
you're
I sent
crying
it to
when you
you.
do it.
And then like this weekend, like they lost to Boston and I pulled it up and I did it. My girlfriend's like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry. It's just the tankathon. It's like, I'm not doing it for anybody other than myself, at which point is really, really, really dark. Like that's a bad place for me to be in right now. Like I'm not doing it to be like funny on social media. Haha, I'm doing the tankathon. Like, could we get Gavin McKenna? Like could this work out this year? Because I think the pick is top 5 protected. So
it's still snowing. It's still snowing here in southwestern Ontario. Or else I'd go tell you to go touch grass. Like just go go for a walk. Put your laptop down. Turn your phone off. Just go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Go do something. Go have a nice dinner with your girlfriend. Do something else other than
get my head out of this
Tankapalooza.
Tankapalooza. Yep. Well,
all right.
If it continues down this path, Jeff, we might have to make it like a weekly segment. At the end, we play the tankathon and we wrap the show up.
At the end of every show, you do like one pull of the simulator.
Yeah.
Craig Berube wasn't happy this weekend, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. Last thing I'll say about this, by the way, and where I understand his case is, so you have brought up, and it's a big point that's been brought up, which I completely understand. I'm not dismissing the speed. They look old and slow. I understand that. But some of this, I don't want to say disappears. Some of this is not as big of an issue if you like turn your brains on a little bit. I know it's a little bit harsh to say like you're playing some stupid hockey, but you're playing some stupid hockey right now. There are some easily avoidable mistakes you don't need to be doing and don't need to be making. And then the speed gets exaggerated because you're doing these dumb things to yourself. You don't need to do these things. So some of that is really infuriating. Like you're in that game against Boston, tied late in the third period, and Steven Lorenz is throwing a pizza in the middle when he's 2 feet away from the blue line. You don't need to do that. Jake McCabe against Carolina, tied in the third period, throwing the pizza. You don't need to do that, guys. And then you probably don't deserve to be in those games. You don't deserve to win them. You could have. You could eliminate some of these issues. That's what's driving me nuts right now.
This was the weekend where not new players, but you know what I mean. New players popped in the top 5 in scoring, and we all went, "Whoa!" Mm-hmm. There's that first glimpse into the future, right? Like with Crosby, Ovechkin in 2005. Whoa! There's the glimpse into the future. Like they're still kids, barely old enough to piss straight, but look what they're doing. This is going to be great. That's what we're getting now with Celebrini and Carlson.
Yep.
My friend Connor Bedard. That was one of my first thoughts this weekend when all the headlines were dominated by, look who's number 1. Now it's Bedard. Oh, here comes Big Dog. Here comes Nate. Woof, 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 woof. Like, okay, we get it. But I wonder what teams like Toronto and teams like Nashville and other teams that, like, the Leafs aren't the oldest team, neither are the Nashville Predators. I think Winnipeg is technically the oldest team in the NHL. But I just wonder, teams that are older and struggling are watching Anaheim right now and watching what San Jose could become and watching what Chicago could become and what they're thinking about their team, right? Like, did you miss a window? Is the window now closed? You have super elite players, but is the window, and what was the final move that closed it? And do you want to go the route of what Anaheim and Chicago, San Jose, 3 Western Conference teams all went through to get to this place now? We're all like, man, Macklin Celebrini is awesome. San Jose is going to be great. Look at all these players they got. Look at all these green bananas. Same as Chicago. And already Anaheim is there. I don't know. Does it move you along to say we missed it and we better take action now? Or you just say, you know what, we'll squeeze as many drops out of this towel as we can? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that conversation came up on Leafs After Dark last night. So that should tell you where we're at. November. Well, it was November 9th, game 16. Yeah. So, yeah, that's with the...
It's good times in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's good times.
It's
good
times.
All right, listen. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the Hockey Hall of Fame this evening. The speeches are always a highlight. They're always fantastic. And yes, we're all very much waiting with bated breath to see what Joe Thornton has to say this evening. Thanks to Kevin Kurz for stopping by. Thanks to John Shannon for doing the same. Always appreciate their contributions. And thanks to Kevin specifically for putting up with pretentious questions and bringing good answers afterwards. And thanks to you for watching. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to you for chatting. Thanks to you for downloading and liking. It's all appreciated right here at The Sheet. We're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern. Me and Zack. It's Wyshynski Day, and we may have a pretty big guest if the stars, planets, universe, all of it can align. I think you'll appreciate what we have cooking for you for tomorrow. Okay, so we'll talk to you in 23 hours. You are released now. Conduct yourself accordingly. We'll talk tomorrow. Jeff Marek along with you. I hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Jonny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for The Sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a